I had just graduated and was in the process of job hunting. Due to financial constraints, I rented a small apartment in a cheap residential building near the city center. Being sociable, I quickly made friends with many people in the area. Among them, I was closest to 3 college students who lived on the floor above me. They were all young, energetic guys who loved to hang out, chat, and, of course, nothing was more exciting than discussing beautiful girls on Tinder. We often shared our latest matches and debated who had the most interesting date. Among us, Ethan was the kindest. He had moved from a small town to study in the city, sharing an apartment with friends to save money. He wasn't particularly handsome, but his friendly personality and sense of humor made him easily likable. But one seemingly ordinary Tinder date turned into a horrifying tragedy. That evening, after dinner, I went up to Ethan's room as usual. When I walked in, I saw him fixing his hair, spraying cologne, and buttoning up a crisp shirt. "Got a date?" I teased. His roommates burst out laughing. He landed a real catch. Been talking to her for a whole month, finally meeting her tonight. Ethan just smiled, his eyes glowing with excitement. I chuckled along. It was nothing unusual, meeting up, having dinner, and seeing where things go if the chemistry is right. At 8 p.m., Ethan waved goodbye and left. Behind him were the playful jeers of his friends. None of us knew it would be the last time we saw him. That night, when Ethan didn't return, we didn't think much of it. Maybe he was having a wild night at a hotel with his Tinder date. But by late afternoon the next day, Ryan, one of Ethan's roommates, broke the news. Ethan still isn't back. He hadn't shown up for class in the morning, and Ryan had called him multiple times, but no one answered. I tried calling right away. No signal. I texted. No reply. A sinking feeling of dread crept in. We reported him missing to the police. They asked about Ethan's date, who she was, where they met, what they did. But we had no idea. All the details about the girl were only on Ethan's phone. We didn't know where they went. We didn't even know her real name. The police took down the information and began the search. We returned to our rooms, an eerie silence hanging over us. Ethan was a good guy. He didn't deserve anything bad to happen to him. But fate had already been decided. 3 days later, the police delivered the news. They had found a body. A young man, dumped under a bridge on the outskirts of the city. His clothes were torn, his body covered in bruises and severe injuries. His phone, wallet, shoes, everything of value was missing. It was Ethan. We couldn't believe it. Just because of a Tinder date, he had lost his life. A week later, the police caught the perpetrators. Not just one person, but an entire gang. 4 men and 1 woman. The woman was just the bait. They had planned everything from the start. That night, Ethan met the woman at a small restaurant on the outskirts of the city. They had dinner, chatting like any normal date. She was charming, engaging, and gave no reason to suspect anything. After the meal, she suggested going somewhere else. Ethan agreed. They headed to a small hotel nearby. The moment Ethan stepped out of the car, 4 men appeared. One of them pretended to be the woman's boyfriend, punching Ethan and accusing him of seducing his girlfriend. The others blocked the entrance, covering Ethan's mouth and tying his hands. Some passers-by noticed, but perhaps thinking it was a lover's quarrel, and seeing how intimidating the 4 men were, they chose to ignore it. They beat Ethan savagely, forcing him to transfer money while stealing his phone and wallet. Then they dragged Ethan into a car and drove him to an abandoned house. That was when the real nightmare began. They tortured Ethan, not just for money. They tormented him for their own twisted entertainment. They recorded videos, laughing and mocking him. Ethan begged, cried, screamed, but no one helped. The police later found those clips on their phones, videos so gruesome that no one could bear to watch them to the end. Eventually, after hours of torture, Ethan lost consciousness. Thinking he was dead, they decided to dispose of the body. They drove out to the outskirts and threw him off the bridge. No one knew. No one could save him. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ethan standing in front of me, dressed neatly like he was for his date, his eyes shining with anticipation. I wondered, in his last moments, what was he thinking? Did he think of us? Did he hope to return to his old apartment, to sit with us and chat like before? All because of a Tinder date. We never spoke about it again. Ethan's 2 roommates moved out soon after. His room remained empty for a long time. I deleted Tinder that very night, and I never trusted online dating again. I used to live with my roommate Emily. She loved dressing up, enjoying life, and was open about her relationships. Emily frequently used Tinder and often went on dates with guys she matched with. I never used dating apps, but I often listened to Emily's stories out of curiosity. She once told me about a guy she had been talking to for 2 weeks. She said he was polite, interesting, and looked attractive in his photos. That Saturday night, while I was watching a movie in the living room, Emily stepped out of her room wearing a tight red dress, softly curled hair, and high heels. She paused in front of the mirror, adjusting her outfit. I glanced at her and asked, "What's the occasion? You're all dressed up." Emily smiled, her eyes lighting up. "A date. I'm finally meeting the guy from Tinder." I shrugged. That was just how she was, always excited about meeting new people. Everything seemed normal that night. Around 11 p.m., Emily texted me, "I'm not coming home tonight. See you tomorrow." I sighed. Not the first time. But the next morning, as soon as I woke up, I heard the door click open. Emily stood there. She was nothing like the cheerful, radiant Emily from the night before. Her eyes were swollen, mascara smudged down her cheeks, her lips dry and her body trembling. "What happened to you?" I ran toward her in shock. Emily clung to me and started sobbing. After a long pause, she finally told me everything. The man she met didn't look like his pictures. He resembled them, but something was off. His face was sharper, his eyes hollow, and his smile sent shivers down her spine. Emily wanted to leave immediately, but he acted polite and reassured her that his pictures were just slightly edited. "I stayed for dinner." Her voice trembled. "That was my biggest mistake." While Emily was in the restroom, he spiked her drink. I only took a few sips, but my head started spinning. I lost control of myself. Emily had no memory of what happened after that. The only thing she knew was that when she woke up, she was lying on a bench in a public park, her clothes slightly disheveled, her body covered in bruises. She had no idea where he had taken her, but the scariest part was when she opened her phone. His Tinder profile had vanished, not a single trace, no way to find any information about it. We immediately reported it to the police, but there wasn't enough evidence to investigate. Emily took a week off work, traumatized. I thought that was the end of it. But I was wrong. A few weeks later, on a quiet evening, Emily and I were watching TV when her phone suddenly buzzed. An unknown number. Emily hesitated before opening the message. "Did you really think you could forget me? Would you like to go on a date with me tonight?" Both of us froze. No one else had her number. My heartbeat pounded in my ears as an eerie feeling crept up my spine. I carefully pulled back the curtain. Outside, under the dim streetlight in front of our building, a man stood motionless. He wore a black hoodie and a cap, his face obscured, but he was staring directly up at our apartment. My breath hitched. He was here. I turned to Emily. "We need to leave. Now." She nodded, her face pale. We called the police immediately, but by the time they arrived, he had vanished. No one saw him leave. No one knew how he disappeared, but we knew. He was still watching. A few days later, we moved out. Emily changed her phone number and left the city to stay with her family for a while. As for me, I also moved away and never went back to that apartment. I never used Tinder, but I never imagined how terrifying it could be. Now, I don't even dare to be around someone who does. I never really trusted Tinder, but after ending a 3-year relationship, I started feeling unbearably lonely. My life revolved around work and my tiny apartment. My friends had their own families, and our gatherings became less frequent. So, on one dull Friday night, I downloaded Tinder. I wasn't expecting much, just someone to chat with, maybe have dinner, or simply make the nights feel less empty. Then I matched with Daniel. He had a warm smile and dressed well in his profile photos. His bio was simple. Just looking for someone to share interesting stories with. He wasn't overly eager, didn't throw out cheesy pickup lines. We talked for a week, and I felt like he was mature, trustworthy. When he finally asked to meet, I said yes. Our first date went well. Daniel was polite, considerate, and nothing seemed off about him. He wasn't overly affectionate, nor was he distant. Just the right balance to make me feel comfortable. We met 2 more times before I invited him over for dinner at my place. He seemed surprised, but agreed without hesitation. That night, I was in the kitchen preparing pasta while Daniel sat on the couch, casually watching me. As I was chopping vegetables, I suddenly realized I was out of olive oil. Daniel immediately stood up. "I'll run to the store and grab some for you. No big deal." I hesitated. "Are you sure? It's just a simple meal." He smiled and winked. "It's fine. You keep cooking. I'll be right back." Then he left. But he was gone longer than I expected. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes passed. I sent him a message and he replied immediately. "Sorry, the first store was out, so I had to check another. Be there soon." It seemed reasonable. I didn't think much of it. 10 minutes later, he returned, slightly out of breath, holding a bottle of olive oil. Something about it felt odd, but he quickly shifted the conversation, asking about the meal, chatting as if nothing had happened. Dinner went well. He didn't do anything unusual. As he was leaving, he kissed my cheek gently and wished me a good night. I felt like I could trust him. But what I didn't know was that the nightmare was only just beginning. After that dinner, Daniel vanished. No more texts, no replies. I felt a little disappointed, but I didn't dwell on it. Maybe he lost interest. Maybe he was just looking for a casual fling. I sighed, telling myself to move on. Life went on as usual, but something was off. I had a habit of drinking warm milk before bed. Yet lately, every morning, I woke up feeling exhausted. My head felt heavy, my limbs sluggish. I kept waking up at 3 or 4 a.m. for no reason. I felt like someone was in my room, watching me. At first, I blamed it on stress, but then I started noticing other things. Steam in the bathroom, even though I hadn't showered. A carton of milk I bought yesterday was already opened. Strange searches in my TV history, things I never watched. At first I thought I was just being forgetful, but then one day, feeling completely drained, I went to see a doctor, and the results froze me in place. There was sedative in my bloodstream, but I had never taken any. A terrifying thought hit me. I rushed to buy a hidden camera and set it up in my bedroom. I didn't know what I was looking for. I just knew something was very, very wrong. The next day, I opened the footage. At around 2 a.m., my closet door slowly creaked open. A shadow crawled out. Daniel. He stood there, at the foot of my bed, watching me. He slowly reached out and gently stroked my hair. Then, he walked into the kitchen. He opened the fridge. He pulled out the milk carton. And from his pocket, he took out a small bottle, pouring something into it. Then, he quietly slipped back into the closet. I nearly dropped my phone. He had been inside my home for 3 weeks. My hands trembled as I dialed 911. But as soon as I hit call, another thought struck me. He was still in the closet. He could have left every night when I was asleep, but he didn't want to. Outside my room, I heard the faintest click. The closet door was opening. I didn't think. I bolted out of my apartment, running down the stairs in sheer panic. When the police arrived, they didn't need to break in. Daniel had the key. He didn't even try to escape. He just smiled, like he had been waiting for this moment. Inside his apartment, the police found hundreds of photos of me, taken secretly, in different moments of my daily life. Videos of him standing in my room every night, just watching. A detailed journal of my habits, when I slept, showered, and left for work. A nearly empty bottle of sedatives, the same one he had been using to drug me. Daniel was arrested immediately. The police discovered he had been stalking over 10 other women before me. I moved out of my apartment a few days later. But every night, before I go to bed, I still check my closet, just to be sure. I've always been drawn to adventure, the thrill of the unknown, and maybe that's why I matched so well with Lena on Tinder. She wasn't like the others. She loved exploring remote places, going on solo camping trips, and escaping from the noise of the city. "Try camping deep in the woods just once," she texted me. "You'll understand how peaceful and freeing it is." After 2 weeks of talking, I finally agreed. We set off in the late afternoon, driving toward a remote forested area. As we got closer, the road grew more isolated, the trees on either side thick and endless. The sun had begun its descent, casting a golden red glow over the landscape. When we arrived, I parked near the edge of the forest, and we began unloading our supplies. We had a tent, food, and water, but as I was checking my bag, Lena suddenly froze. "Did you bring a lighter?" she asked. I stopped, unzipped my bag, and searched. Nothing. "Damn," I muttered. "How the hell are we supposed to start a fire?" Lena thought for a moment before looking up. "On the way here, I saw a small convenience store just down the road," she said. "You should go back and grab one. We'll need it tonight." I turned, glancing back toward the road. I hadn't noticed any store earlier. I had been too focused on driving. "Come with me?" I asked. Lena shook her head. "Nah," she said, stretching her arms. "Sitting in the car for so long was exhausting. I'll just stay here and breathe in some fresh air." I hesitated for a second, but then shrugged and got back in the car. I figured it would take me 10 minutes. But when I returned, Lena was gone. I parked and stepped out of the car, scanning the area. No sign of her. I pulled out my phone. A message from Lena had just come through. "I went in first. Just come in. I'm a little further inside." A cold feeling crept up my spine. "Why'd you go ahead? I was only gone 10 minutes. No reply. The sky had darkened into shades of deep blue, and that's when I noticed it. Everything was silent. No rustling of leaves, no chirping birds, no insects. Just nothing. Another message arrived. "Come a little deeper. I'm waiting." I hesitated. A cold breeze moved through the trees, rustling the branches. Then, footsteps, right behind me. My chest tightened. I turned sharply. Nothing. But the undergrowth a few feet away was shifting. I pulled out my phone and dialed Lena. "The number you are trying to call is not in service." My mouth went dry. Something was very, very wrong. I spun on my heels and sprinted toward the car. The footsteps behind me sped up. I threw myself into the driver's seat and slammed the lock button. Through the trees, a shadow stood motionless, watching, not moving, not making a sound. I jammed my foot on the gas and peeled out of there, my heart hammering. As I neared the highway, I dared a glance in the rearview mirror. Just before the winding road curved and the forest disappeared behind me, I saw Lena. She was standing in the middle of the road, perfectly still, expressionless, just watching. Her face was blank, devoid of emotion. She didn't move. She didn't follow. She just stood there, staring after me as I drove away. I don't know what Lena wanted, or why she lured me into the forest. But I know one thing for certain. If I had been just a few minutes slower, I wouldn't have made it out. I never used Tinder much, but after moving to a new city, I figured I'd give it a shot. A few days in, I matched with a guy named Daniel. He had a sharp jawline, a light beard, and piercing blue eyes. His profile had only a few pictures and minimal info, but he seemed friendly. We started chatting, and he was surprisingly charming, funny, engaging, but also secretive. When I asked about his job, he simply replied, "I work freelance, mostly traveling." I pressed for more details, but he gave none. Still, he was nice, and after a few days, he suggested we meet up. "How about a coffee shop downtown, 7 p.m. tomorrow?" I agreed. I arrived at the coffee shop on time, texted him to let him know I was there. No response. I waited a few minutes, then suddenly felt something strange, a sense that I was being watched. I turned my head slightly. A man in a black coat was sitting a few tables away, staring at me, unblinking. I felt my phone vibrate. "You look beautiful in that blue jacket." My heart stopped. He was here. But I looked around. No one looked like his profile pictures. I quickly texted back, "Where are you?" No reply. I glanced back at the man in the black coat. He was gone. I left immediately, my heart pounding. When I got home, I checked Tinder. Daniel's profile was gone. No match, no messages. I felt a deep sense of unease, but I tried to brush it off. Maybe he was a catfish, just playing a game. Then, around 11 p.m., I heard something. A soft tapping at my bedroom window. I live on the second floor. No one should be able to reach my window. Trembling, I crept toward the curtains and slowly pulled them open. A man stood in the yard below. He was staring directly up at me. I couldn't make out his face in the dark, but I could feel his gaze piercing through me. I locked my door immediately. I lay in bed, unable to sleep. Then at 2 a.m. my phone rang. A blocked number. I didn't answer. Then, a text. "You look even prettier when you're scared." I dropped my phone. This wasn't random. He knew I was scared. He was watching. I called the police. They arrived within 10 minutes, searched the property but found no one. One officer asked, "Are you sure you didn't imagine it?" I had no proof, just the text from an unknown number. They took a report and told me to call again if anything happened. I felt helpless. 3 days passed. I tried to move on. That night, I got home late and locked the door. Then, I heard it. Breathing. Faint. Slow. Coming from somewhere inside my apartment. A chill ran down my spine. I scanned the living room. Everything looked normal. But then I saw it. My bedroom closet. The door was slightly open, just enough for someone to peek out. I froze. I felt something staring back at me from inside. Then, the door shifted, like someone inside was adjusting their weight. I ran. I bolted out of my apartment, down the stairs, and called 911. This time, the police didn't hesitate. They searched my apartment and found unfamiliar footprints in my bedroom. The living room window had been tampered with. And worst of all, they found a phone hidden in my closet. The phone had dozens of photos of me. Photos of me at work, shopping, sleeping. The most recent one? A picture taken through the gap in my closet door, just minutes before I ran. The police never found him. They said he may have snuck in days before and had been hiding in my apartment ever since, watching me, waiting. I don't know who he was. I don't know where he went. But every night before I go to bed, I check my windows. I check my locks. And most of all, I always check my closet. Because I know someday he might come back.